Lila was a devoted mother living in a small, worn-down apartment with her 2 children. Life had never been easy, but lately financial struggles had turned into an overwhelming burden. Bills piled up on the kitchen table, and the stress weighed heavy on her heart. Each month felt like a battle, and she often wondered how she would put food on the table. Her wedding ring, a beautiful symbol of love and commitment, now felt more like a reminder of the dreams that had faded away. It was a gift from her late husband, and the thought of parting with it made her stomach churn. Yet, as she looked into her children's innocent faces, she realized that they needed help more than she needed the ring. With a heavy heart, Lila decided to sell it, thinking it could bring in money for groceries or bills. The decision, however, was not easy. It felt like losing a piece of herself. She took a deep breath and made up her mind to ride the 60 miles to the nearest pawn shop. As she prepared for the journey ahead, her heart fluttered with a mix of hope and fear about what awaited her at the end of the road. As Lila stood in her cramped kitchen, the morning sun streamed through the faded curtains, casting a warm glow on the cluttered table. She glanced at the stack of bills and then at her children, who were playing quietly in the corner. They seemed so carefree, completely unaware of the weight pressing down on their mother. It struck Lila how much she would do to keep that innocence alive. The thought of selling her wedding ring felt like tearing herself apart. It had sparkled on her finger during happier times, a symbol of love that had once filled her heart with joy. But as she looked at her children, she knew they needed food and security more than she needed a piece of jewelry that now felt like a ghost of her past. With a determined heart, Lila made her decision. She grabbed the ring from its special spot and held it tightly in her palm, feeling both its weight and its memories. The idea of riding 60 miles seemed daunting, but for her kids, it was a sacrifice she was ready to make. Taking a deep breath, she stepped outside, ready to face the long road ahead, fueled by love and desperation. The sun climbed higher as Lila began her journey, the wind tangling her hair as she rode her old bicycle down the narrow country road. Each pedal felt heavy, but her determination pushed her forward. The thought of her children waiting at home fueled her resolve, keeping her spirits alive against the fatigue that crept in. Along the way, she encountered a rough patch of gravel that jostled her bike. Wincing, she steadied herself but pressed on, unwilling to let a few bumps deter her mission. She passed fields of wildflowers swaying in the breeze, their colors vibrant against the dull backdrop of her worries. Occasionally, she would pause to catch her breath and sip water from a small bottle tucked in her bag. As she rode further, challenges arose. Steep hills tested her strength while passing cars whizzed by, reminding her how alone she felt on this long ride. Yet with every mile marker she passed, Lila found a renewed sense of hope. For each push forward represented not just distance traveled, but also steps taken toward a brighter future for her children. With determination shining in her eyes, Lila continued on, ready to face whatever lay ahead. After what felt like an eternity, Lila finally approached the pawn shop, a small, unassuming building nestled between 2 larger stores. Her heart raced as she dismounted her bicycle, the weight of her wedding ring in her pocket feeling heavier than before. She took a moment to compose herself, wiping the sweat from her brow and taking a deep breath. The bell above the door jingled softly as she entered, and she was greeted by the musty scent of old furniture and forgotten treasures. The shop owner, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a welcoming smile, looked up from behind the counter. "What can I do for you today?" he asked, his voice gentle and understanding. Lila hesitated, her emotions swirling inside her like a storm. She felt vulnerable, standing there with her cherished ring, an object that held so many memories. "I need to sell this," she finally said, pulling the ring from her pocket and placing it on the counter. As the owner examined it, Lila's heart sank. She felt a mix of sadness and relief, knowing she was making the right choice but also parting with a piece of her past. The moment hung heavy in the air as she awaited his response. As Lila stood anxiously at the counter, waiting for the shop owner's evaluation of her ring, the bell above the door jingled again. A man entered, slightly out of breath, with a friendly smile and warm brown eyes that seemed to light up the room. He paused mid-step when he noticed Lila's somber expression. "Is everything okay?" he asked, genuinely concerned. Lila glanced at him, surprised by his kindness in such a strange place. She hesitated but felt something about his presence made it easier to share her story. "I'm selling my wedding ring," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The man's expression shifted from curiosity to understanding as he stepped closer. "That must be really tough," he replied. "It's a big decision." Lila's heart warmed as he listened intently. They began talking, and she found herself sharing more about her struggles and the journey she had taken to get there. He introduced himself as Jack and explained how he often visited this pawn shop to help those in need. There was something reassuring about him, an undeniable spark of connection that made Lila feel seen in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. In that moment, amidst her sadness, hope began to blossom again. As their conversation deepened, Jack leaned against the counter, his eyes full of empathy. Lila shared her worries about how she would provide for her children, and she felt a sense of relief talking to someone who truly listened. "You shouldn't have to feel like you're giving up a part of yourself to care for your family," he said softly. Lila nodded, the weight of her decision still heavy on her heart. "I just don't know what else to do," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. Jack seemed to consider her words carefully before he continued. "What if I could help you find another way? You don't have to sell your ring if you don't want to." His unexpected offer took Lila by surprise. "You mean you'd help me?" she asked, bewildered. Jack smiled warmly and explained that he had connections in the community that could provide support, food banks, job opportunities, and even local charities aimed at helping families like hers. Lila felt a flicker of hope igniting inside her. Jack's kindness was unlike anything she had expected at that moment in such an uncertain time. Maybe she wouldn't have to give up everything after all. This chance encounter was beginning to feel like more than mere coincidence. As Lila and Jack continued to talk, the tension in the air lightened, and she felt a growing comfort in his presence. "It's just been so hard since my husband passed," she admitted softly, her voice trembling slightly. Jack nodded, empathy shining in his eyes. "I can only imagine. Losing someone you love leaves an emptiness that's hard to fill." Jack took a deep breath and opened up about his own struggles. He revealed how he had once lost his job unexpectedly and faced months of uncertainty before finding a new path. "There was a time when I felt hopeless too," he said, his tone sincere. "But I learned that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a step toward healing." Lila listened intently as Jack shared his dreams of starting a community support network to aid families facing hardships like theirs. Her heart swelled with inspiration. Here was someone who truly understood their plight and wanted to make a difference. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, filled with shared hopes, laughter, and dreams for brighter days ahead. In this unexpected moment of connection, Lila felt less alone and more empowered to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together with Jack's support. As Lila stood in the pawn shop, the ring still resting on the counter, her mind began to race with new possibilities. Jack's words echoed in her thoughts. "You don't have to sell your ring if you don't want to." A flicker of hope transformed into a bright flame as she considered the alternative routes her life could take. Suddenly, the idea of parting with the ring felt less like a necessity and more like a loss she didn't have to endure. What if she could find work or accept Jack's offer for community support? The thought of keeping a piece of her husband's memory while finding new ways to provide for her children invigorated her spirit. She looked at Jack, who was still patiently waiting beside her, and felt a warmth spread through her heart. Perhaps this moment had been a twist of fate, a chance encounter that could lead her to a brighter future without giving up her past. Lila's resolve strengthened, and she realized that selling the ring didn't have to be her only option. With renewed determination, she decided to explore other avenues that would keep her family together while honoring the love she'd once cherished. As Lila and Jack continued to talk, their conversation naturally flowed into lighter topics, bringing moments of laughter that brightened the atmosphere. They exchanged funny stories about their children. Jack shared a tale about his niece who insisted on wearing a princess costume to the grocery store, while Lila recounted the time her son tried to bake cookies but used salt instead of sugar. The shared smiles and chuckles created an easy bond between them. With every laugh, Lila felt a warmth spreading through her, as if she were rediscovering a part of herself that had been buried under worry and sadness. Jack's genuine interest in her life made her feel valued beyond her struggles. "You know," he said with a grin, "there's something special about having a friend to share your burdens with." Lila nodded, grateful for his kindness. They found themselves discussing dreams and aspirations, discovering common ground in their desire to make positive changes in their lives. This unexpected friendship was blossoming into something meaningful, filling Lila's heart with hope and joy. In the midst of uncertainty, she realized she had found not just support but also companionship, someone who understood her journey and wanted to walk alongside her. As Lila prepared to leave the pawn shop, she felt a sense of warmth that she hadn't experienced in a long time. The atmosphere had shifted. Gone were the feelings of despair and isolation that had initially filled the space. Instead, she carried with her newfound hope and an unexpected bond with Jack. Before stepping outside, she turned to him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for everything, Jack. You've truly changed my perspective today," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. Jack smiled back, his eyes sparkling with encouragement. "Remember, you're not alone in this journey." As Lila rode away on her bicycle, she realized that this trip had become about much more than selling a ring. It was about new beginnings. With each pedal forward, she felt lighter, as if the burdens of the past were melting away. The fear that had clouded her thoughts was replaced by endless possibilities. The companionship they had forged in just a few hours gave her strength she didn't know she had. Lila glanced back at the shop one last time, confident she could face whatever lay ahead, armed with hope and a supportive friend by her side. This encounter had opened her heart and mind to a brighter future, one filled with both love and resilience. As Lila pedaled away from the pawn shop, she took a moment to reflect on her journey. The weight of her wedding ring had been heavy, not just because it was a physical object but because of all it represented: her past, her husband, and the love they had shared. Initially, she believed that selling it was the only solution to provide for her children. However, through her encounter with Jack, she realized that the essence of what truly mattered in life extended far beyond material possessions. Her thoughts drifted to the warmth of their conversation and the laughter they had shared. It dawned on her that love and connection were infinitely more valuable than any piece of jewelry. The memories of her husband would always be with her, and she didn't need to let go of that connection to move forward. Instead, Lila felt a renewed commitment to nurture relationships, both with the memory of her late husband and with new friends like Jack who offered support. With each turn of the pedals, Lila felt lighter and more hopeful, understanding that true wealth came not from what one owned, but from the bonds forged through compassion and shared experiences. She was ready to embrace life's possibilities with an open heart, knowing that love would guide her way. Lila's journey had begun with a desperate decision, but it had unfolded into something beautiful and transformative. As she rode home, her heart felt light with the knowledge that she would not only provide for her children, but also honor the memory of her late husband in ways that transcended material possessions. With Jack's support, she envisioned a future where love and community became the foundation for their lives. In the days that followed, Lila explored new job opportunities within her community and began volunteering at local support programs. Jack became a steadfast friend and ally, often joining her in these endeavors. Together, they helped create initiatives that connected families in need with resources, further solidifying Lila's belief that they could build a stronger community together. As their friendship blossomed, Lila found herself smiling more often, laughter echoing in her home. The bond between them deepened as they explored these new beginnings side by side. Lila realized that this unexpected journey had gifted her not just resilience, but also someone who understood her struggles and shared her dreams. Ultimately, Lila's story is one of hope, reminding us that even in our darkest moments, we can find light through compassion and connection, paving the way for brighter tomorrows.